So I'm going to ask you a question that will at first probably sound a little silly. Do you attend church? Do you attend church? Yes. This isn't a question about frequency or why. When you come to this space on a Sunday morning, whether you are here weekly or occasionally, whether this is your regular place of worship or somewhere else is, or whether you are just testing the waters and thinking, do you think of it as attending church? So attending church is the idea that has us focused on that consumer model I shared last week. And before you hear me say, you're all wrong, let me tell you that I also would think of myself as attending church until I was invited into this reframe. So as a refresher, or an orientation if you weren't here, in a consumer model, people are focused on themselves as independent, right? And that's often uplifted in our society. We prioritize material goods, ensuring that our voices are heard. We talk about rights and choice and fairness and balance. We talk about making space for the other. A second model, or there's an earlier model that we're sort of leaving behind this week. So a final model is a citizen story. One that is interdependent, with a focus on networking and creating together, facilitating a sense of purpose. A citizen model employs what UU educator C.B. Beale calls radical preemptive inclusion. A citizen model invites you into the idea of being church. That is, we all create this community together. And by we all, I really do mean all of us. Each of us, whether we hold a position of leadership or are just meeting people today, fill a vital role in this congregation. And people you will never see here on a Sunday morning also fill a vital role in our congregation. If you've been here for a long time, there are probably people you used to see regularly on Sundays, and you know they are still engaged in other areas of the congregation. When I imagine being church, I think about our full week. I think about Sunday morning, yes, but also about the programs our youth attend later on Sundays. I think about Tuesday suppers and committee meetings and spiritual deepening. I think about choir and those of you who drop by to pick up something you've left behind, checking in with Nancy Siegel, or organizing a project via email and text message. And I think about what is not yet happening. I wonder whether there's a need for a service on a weekday evening, or when the best time for adult spiritual development offerings might be. Seriously, tell me if you have an opinion, because there are more coming, and I'm just going to pick days. I wonder whether people would be better served by having a chapter of one of our more theologically specific UU groups here, like the Covenant of UU Pagans or the UU Christian Fellowship. I wonder about spaces for body practices and reflection and connection to theology and the arts. Often, I wonder how this year's coming work on mission will shape my thinking about how and why we exist. Our current mission says this: we welcome individuals and families who seek spiritual growth and nurturing, worship, celebrate, and learn together, respect each other, and value our differences in a way that reflects the love, compassion, and openness of our faith, and strive to build a better community for all people. So first, these are fine words, and in fact, when they were first written about 20 years ago, they were considered a really good mission. We have shifted in the way that we talk about ourselves. And these are, in fact, things that we do and things that we think, and I think things that we want to continue to do, right? And I'm going to tell on you all a little bit, but collectively. When the board was reflecting on them last month, many of us had a similar response. They aren't particular to us. They are statements that could be said about many faith communities, and I think things that most churches believe about themselves, even when we might not agree. So what makes us unique? Why are we here rather than at some other church or synagogue or a social club? I have some ideas, but largely I'm looking forward to the ways you will reflect on questions about why we exist and who we are called to be here in the center of Beverly. How will we be church? The Reverend Peggy Clark invites UUs to think about our why this way. Again, on the Disrupt Church Substack, she writes, quote, "Do you exist so that people can light candles of joys and sorrows on Sundays at 10:30? If so, there's nothing changing that. Or do you exist to build spiritual communities of joy and resistance, grounded in progressive values of radical inclusion? Before anything else, know your mission." It's amazing to me how difficult it is for people to name this for their churches. They read mission statements, which inevitably say nothing. They boil it down to, "We're here to help people," which always leaves me scratching my head. I mean, so is the United Nations and customer service at the IRS. But I'd suggest we do, in fact, differ from both, end quote. Why we exist and what we do as part of our model are different, right? So do we exist to light candles, or is that just one of the ways that we express ourselves? It's important. I am not suggesting that dropping stones and sharing joys and sorrows ends, right? But that it isn't our why. It is just one of many hows. Being at the start of our deep dive into redefining mission doesn't mean we can't begin some of this disruption work right now. Clarifying our why will help us dig more deeply, but there are already ways we can invite people into further relationship. So there are some things that I think large evangelical churches do really, really, really well. Part of their vitality is found in their urgency in building connection and relationship. Now, the salvific theology they place behind that urgency doesn't work for me, right? I am absolutely a death and glory universalist. You can ask me more about that phrase if you're curious about it. But I do relate to the idea that building more and deeper connections are deeply needed in this world. And evangelical churches often do this by having a wide variety of small groups, where everyone in the community has the opportunity to build deep, meaningful connection with intention. When new people come into the community, they are almost immediately invited into that connection. This is a thing that often sounds scary to us as Unitarian Universalists. We don't want to intimidate people. We don't want to overwhelm them. And in many of our churches, we have a proven history of doing that, right? And so we're cautious. I once had a UU tell me with great delight that the way he became a member of his congregation was quite by accident. It was 2004, and he and his fiancée had heard that a UU church might be a welcoming place for a gay couple to get married. Eager to take Massachusetts up on our new law, they showed up at a UU church one Sunday morning. Just inside the door, they were greeted warmly and asked, "Do you want to sign the book?" Some of you know what was being asked. And if you're an experienced UU or you've spent time around membership, you know that this is an invitation into membership in a congregation. You become a formal member of a congregation by signing the membership book, by putting your name down in the long lineage of others who have chosen these people as their own, by saying, "I am choosing to make you mine, and I am now yours." We belong to each other in this community. But a couple of brand new visitors, they had no idea. They thought they were being invited to sign the guest book. And so they immediately and readily said, "Yes, of course." When this UU first told me this story, he shared it with love and with humor. It turned out those truly were his people and his husband's people. And by the time we met a decade and a half later, it was a funny anecdote. But very honestly, I was a bit horrified. I heard the story with the lens of someone new to a space and a people. I thought about how most people might react upon finding out they'd signed their name to a membership without real awareness. I know I'm not the only one who wants to cautiously avoid a scene like that one. But here is a truth. People do not come through our doors seeking to avoid community. We all come with different comfort. We all come with varying levels of certainty about whether this congregation or Unitarian Universalism or even faith community at all is right for us. But we do all come seeking connection and community. And very consistently, an authentic invitation into community connection is well received. We don't have a lot of formal small group spaces here. Stay tuned for that to shift. But we do have some. We have a group that is connected using Soul Matters, small group resources. That one has been a finite group of people who have built connection together. And we have Queer Coffee, which is a different sort of small group. As a closed caucus space, there's a lot that I won't share about Queer Coffee. That space is specifically for queer and trans people in our community. But here is what I can share. Each month, an invitation is extended for queer coffee, and that invitation is clear. Whether you are a lifelong member of First Parish, visiting for the first time, or anywhere in between, if you hold a queer or trans identity, you are invited. And it is the program I most often see visitors participate in, not necessarily because our visitors are overwhelmingly queer or trans, but because we have offered explicit invitation. In the coming weeks, I'm going to be inviting you or asking you how our congregation can help you deepen connection. Perhaps you feel like your connection is deep enough, and I hope that when you're invited to share, you will share that and share why. But if the invitation to think expansively about who you would like to foster deeper connection with has even an inkling of connection for you, I hope you will follow that curiosity. So next week specifically, we will close this Disrupt Church series by drawing from lessons in Robin Wall Kimmerer's The Serviceberry. Kimmerer is a scientist and a member of the Potawatomi Nation, and she uses science and indigenous teachings to explore abundance and reciprocity. So I'm going to prime you with an invitation today, and if you're someone who likes to write things down to think about them over time, now is a great chance to write this down or pull out your phone. I prime you with the invitation to spend the next week thinking about how you would complete this phrase with respect to our church. I wish someone would.